Hello YouTube, and welcome to Project Highrise. This is a new game I just downloaded a little while ago. I've actually now played it for about 15 hours or so, but it's a fun little game. I was pleasantly surprised. I hadn't heard of it before. I suddenly saw a Steam ad for it one day, and I quickly read up on it, and I said this is a game that I think I would like to try. So I've got the basic game all installed here. There is some DLC available. I've uninstalled it for the purpose of making this video, and then in future videos I'll probably play a little bit with the DLC as well, just to show you what the DLC looks like. But right now I've just got the basic game installed here. Of course, the comparisons are inevitable that Project Highrise is going to be compared to SimTower. The old tower building sim game from way back in the day. I remember I used to play that when it first came out, and I thought it was a great little game. It was fairly simple, but I enjoyed it a lot. It was simple to sort of put the buildings together, but it was a challenge to fine-tune them. So I thought, I hadn't played that game in a long time. I thought this might be a fun alternative, a new game to look at. But the key thing to remember is that this is not SimTower, although a lot of it is done sort of as an homage to SimTower. It's not SimTower. So I have to kind of keep that in mind for myself as I'm playing it, and I'll try to keep that in mind through the video and not complain too much about what's different, because it is its own game. It's a unique game. It's got a lot of nice features to it, some things that SimTower never did. It's missing a few things that I wish that it would do. But every game is unique, and this is not SimTower. This is not SimTower 2. It's called Project Highrise. It's a different game, similar in a lot of aspects, though. It's a fairly simple game to play as well. Very simple game to learn, but in terms of mastering it, it does definitely take some time to sort of learn some of the tricks and the intricacies of the game. So to start with, this is what the main menu looks like. I'll start you off here on the right side really quickly. Tutorials. The tutorials here are really good. They're very simple, they're very quick, but they do walk you through how to do most of the basic stuff to set up your building. I won't tell you how to build a perfect building, but it'll give you enough of how to use the various tools, how to build construction, how to build the floors and add utilities, how to deal with your tenants, move them in, move them out if you don't like them. Prestige is how fancy and famous your building is, and the more famous your building is, the more opportunities you get from it. Disrepair, learn about how to keep your building clean and in good repair, so the building will eventually wear out and you have to be able to fix it up. And user interface, just more again about how to use that user interface, get more information about what's happening in your building. All in all, I don't think the tutorials took me more than about a half an hour or so to do all 5 of them. They were fairly simple, fairly straightforward, but they got you the basic mechanics of the game. Right on the main menu is also the ability to add some mods. I don't have any mods downloaded, but right there you can install any mods you want right from the Steam Workshop. Makes it nice and easy, no editing INI files or anything silly like that. Options are fairly straightforward, just a little bit about how you format your game, how it looks, reset help hints, reset scenario medals, graphics. You can, again, very basic, but you can control how your game looks. Sound, I've turned the music down just so it doesn't interfere with us, but it's a fairly nice, quiet, calming little soundtrack, SimCity-esque kind of soundtrack. And you can control, of course, quick keys and a little bit of an about screen. On the left, we can start a new game. New game allows you to basically start a sandbox type of game. You can name it whatever you like. Pick a difficulty level, which just determines how many people are able to move in and how big your lot is. It can be standard, it could be narrow and tall, short and wide. You can make it super large. One nice thing about Project Highrise over SimTower is that the limitations that used to exist have all been lifted. So back in the day, for those of us that played SimTower, there was a limit to how big the building could be, and there's a limit to how much you could have in the building. Elevators especially were very limited. Obviously that is not an issue in this game. That was just a result of the power of the computers back then, and to keep the performance reasonable, there had to be limitations to what programs could do back in the days. Of course now, modern generations, such a thing is not nearly so important. So as well as a sandbox game, of course, there's various scenarios you can play. I have been playing this game for a little bit, so I have played some of these scenarios. You can earn various medals, sort of a bronze, silver, gold kind of thing. So to start off this Let's Play Let's Play video, I'm going to start a new tower. So we're going to start with the Lake Point Tower here. I had a look at this one. I took a very quick run at it, and it seems like a little bit interesting. It's a little bit slow paced, but you'll be able to see what's going on. So Lake Point Tower, difficulty medium. It takes a lot of time to get this game sort of going just because you're sort of limited in your cash in the beginning. Time was that downtown was a place only for work and play, heart of the city, pulsing with commerce and business, hosted swank restaurants, hottest clubs, and throngs of theaters. But after a long day of work or an evening of hazy revelry, everyone hailed a cab or boarded a train and went home, which was elsewhere, not downtown. But times change, and sometimes quickly. Recently, cities far and wide have witnessed surges of new residents that want to call downtown home. Get on the action by building a shiny new apartment tower. And this is what we're going to have to start. So we'll click play. It loads very nice and quickly here. It's a fairly simple game, but it's very attractive, I have to say. So now that we've popped into our scenario, first of all, our bronze, silver, gold goals for the scenario. So it tells you what you need to achieve each level. So residents and retail, we need 100 residents and 8 stores. To reach the silver level, we need 150 residents, 12 restaurants, and have 50 visitors, that is people who don't live in our building visiting the stores and restaurants. And then prestigious penthouses, we need 250 residents, we need 30 prestige points, and we need at least 10 luxury lofts. So we need to do all that to get a gold. So we'll close that up and we'll just have a little look at the game here. And the game is, frankly, it's very attractive to look at. It's zoomed in right now, and I can zoom in even more. So you can see a lot of detail. The population, the Sims that live in your building, if you will, are quite detailed, as are the buildings and the various rooms that they live in, and even the sound effects as we scroll over here to alright, sorry about that, YouTube. I had a momentary glitch in my recording there. So now I've completely lost my train of thought, but yeah, I was just showing you, I think, how attractive, first of all, the game is. You can zoom right out and see the entire building, but when you zoom right in, there's a lot of detail, down to some hot and cold water taps here, cup of coffee, cups on top of the cooler, individual tools. It's quite detailed, and the game is quite charming. I was thinking about this and how interesting it would be to play in 3 dimensions and have a 3-dimensional tower, but it would become quickly almost overwhelming, I think. The 2-dimensional look is very nice. You can see everything sort of at once on screen. In 3 dimensions, displaying it and having to try and work out how to display it, whether top-down views or side profile views or both, and trying to find things, you know, where the utility's running, how are things hooked up and connected. It would be, in a 3-dimensional world, be very challenging. So I think I'd like the fact that they did stick to the 2-dimensional world here in Project Highrise. And they've done a very nice job of it. Just because it's 2-dimensional does not mean it can't be attractive. As I said, I zoomed in here. A lot of the units are very attractive, and when you zoom in, you find little details sometimes that you've missed when you see it from the big overview. So I like it a lot. So let's get, without further ado, let's get started here. First of all, just a couple of things in the top corner here. We have just a few things, some overlays, so you can see things like profitability, you can see traffic, you can see where there's elevators and who's closed the elevators, so various things that various tenants may like or may not like. The utility view shows us the various utilities, which we're going to get into very soon. The overall construction grid shows us how big our building is allowed to get. Different games are allowed to get to different sizes. Some are wide and shorter, some are narrow and tall, so the size can vary. It's not fixed, which is kind of nice. Of course, down at the bottom we have our speed controls and our clock, so you can see what time of day it is, and you'll see the people come and go based on the time of day. Some status information, prestige, which is basically how fancy and famous our building is. The more fancy and famous it is, the more we can attract high-end tenants, larger offices, luxury lofts, whatnot. Our actual population of people who live and work in our building, as well as visitors, who are the people who don't live in our building that are coming to visit, patronize the various restaurants, stores, etc. Of course, we have some more status stuff here. Money is important, so we can check on our money here. We can even click on it to see how our cash flow is going for the day. We can click on this little bank icon right here. Will let us take out loans, which we're probably going to need to in this scenario because we're not starting out with much money. And buzz and influence, which we'll look at more when they become a little bit more relevant. For now, we're going to just try and get this building built. So most of what's going on over here is our build menu. We can build the actual basic bones of our building, infrastructure such as power lines, water lines, etc., and the individual types of units we can put in our building, and then little extra amenities and such to go with it. So our goal here is to build an apartment tower. But there's also, as you remember, the goals also, where are the goals? Here are the goals, also want us to build some retail, some restaurants, etc. So you need to kind of have a plan when you start this game out, because you can move stuff around in the end, but it does become expensive quickly to move people around after you've already built a unit. So it's good to have a good idea of what you're going to do when you start. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to have retail, 2 floors of kind of retail, restaurant mixed stuff, and then starting on the 3rd floor, we will have our residential tower. One interesting thing to note too, and this game does follow the European convention for floor naming. The ground floor is floor 0. The first floor is the first floor above ground level, not including ground level. So it's kind of the European way of doing it. So of course, I'm based in Canada, so I'm going to probably use the Canadian way of saying it, and this ground floor is the first floor. But either way, it's just interesting to note that when you're looking at the floor numbers. All right, so let's start by creating some space for our building and its various extra. Let's see, for our apartments and for our retail. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by expanding our lobby here, and then we're going to start building some stuff on top of the lobby. Now, the one thing, of course, we're going to need, we don't have yet at all, is an elevator. And the elevators have to start in the lobby, but they can go up and down in straight lines. This is in Star Trek. We don't have turbo lifts, and you can't go sideways. So now that I've started to build something here, I've unpaused the game, and any minute now, as soon as I poke these guys enough times, hey, wake up, I got some work for you to do. So these are your construction workers. So they're the ones that actually build everything in your building. So there's no outside construction workers. There's actually people in your building that are going to come and build everything for you. So we're going to start off with, first thing we're going to build is studio apartments. These are, let's see here, these are about 6 units wide. And what I'm going to do here is I'm also going to leave a little bit of space on either side of the elevator for some utility closets. And you'll see that's a mistake I made in the beginning, is I didn't really leave a lot of space for it. It's a lot easier if you sort of allocate space right off the bat. So I'll have one space on either side for my utility closets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That'll build an apartment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then this will be another floor of retail. So I'm not going to do anything with it yet, but then above that is going to be where we're going to have our a couple of apartments starting to go in. So we need, of course, a way to get there. We need elevators. Here come our elevators. So now these guys, even though they're under construction, can somehow magically ride the elevators. I'm not going to... Let's not even talk about that. What's wrong with that? Let's just go with it. They made it up there somehow. They're construction workers. They're allowed to travel up these elevator shafts before they're finished. And they made it up there. So now you can see our construction crew has leapt into action. Here they are. They're working on the various aspects of our building. So they're building the elevator shafts, and then what you're going to see is that they're going to continue working on the floors. So as I built the floors, you saw they're not really done. These floors over here are complete. They have windows, but they don't have any construction mess. Here they actually still have construction mess. These guys have to come along and finish everything. So you're going to find that this is a bit of a tedious part of the building, but it does pace your growth. You can't just instantly build an infinite amount of space. Not that we had the money for it either, but time. It also takes not just money, but time to build this space, to construct these floors. So now you can see that these guys, I've put this into fast forward because although I enjoy the detail level that's going on here, very quickly you find yourself waiting for things to happen, things like construction to occur and whatnot. So you're hoping that these guys are going to do their job quickly or more quickly, so you kind of want to see time go a little faster. All right. So as these people continue working here, I'm going to start making this floor a little bit wider, but we're going to need to start getting some revenue here to cover our expenses soon. So let's make the floor a little wider here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5. Move out of my way, silly menu. There we go. And then Once I know how big those are, I can't accidentally build up here, so I can definitely do that. Left a little space there. Okay. Go to it, construction workers. So these guys are going to start building. I'm going to continue constructing the floors here. All right. So here's my first 2 floors where I'm going to have retail, restaurants, etc. I'm going to have a little bit of a mall, kind of a mall thing going on here in the first couple floors of the building. So it's going to be the 3rd floor where we're going to start having actual units that people can live in. So down here, residential, S for studio apartments. So just 1-room apartments, very small, not much going on in there. So I can drop that there. I can't drop a unit until, of course, they finish building the floors. So they have to finish clearing out the floor, building that floor, and then I can drop a unit in there. When you allocate a unit, it doesn't cost any money to allocate the space for unit. It's when you actually go to build, furnish the unit that it costs you money. So you've just allocated an empty apartment space. Pick how you would like to decorate it. Once it's ready, residential renters will move in. Alright, so click on the unit, and you can pick what style of apartment you would like. Basic studio apartment, deluxe studio apartment, luxury studio apartment. Of course, as you can imagine, the red X means I can't do it. Luxury studio apartment needs a bunch of stuff before I can build that. Even deluxe studio apartment needs a couple of things. Needs prestige, need at least 1-star prestige, and needs a greater variety of cafes for these people who live in deluxe studio apartments. But I can build a basic studio apartment. I can build a little slum for my people to live in, and it'll pay me a small amount of rent. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And what you'll see is in a minute, when the construction workers are done what they're currently doing, one of them is going to come back and work on furnishing this apartment properly. Here he comes. What's your name? Steven. Steven is coming back to furnish this apartment. So everybody has a name. You can click on everybody in this game. Each individual has a name, and you can actually change their name if you don't like it. Sherry, Dawn, Diane. If you don't like the name, you can just custom put in your own name. All right. So he's finishing that up. While he's doing that, I'm going to need to do a couple things here. Oh, and I did not think properly here, so I don't know if this will work, but I'm going to try. So someone that lives or works in your building is unhappy. Unhappy people mean that you're not meeting their expectations of what your building should provide. You can click on anyone to learn more about what's making them happy or unhappy. All right. Show me. Who's unhappy? I'd love a nice lunch spot here. I'd like to buy a cup of coffee, but where? There are no breakfast places here. I want to grab some. Okay. I'm picking up on a theme here. You guys want some restaurants. See, even though I don't have anybody who lives in my building, I already have a bunch of people who work in my building. And those people get hungry as well. So I'm going to need to build some restaurants to make them happy. So, restaurants right here. I can only build very small restaurants right now. But let's start. Let's build one here, and let's build one here. You have just allocated empty space for rent. Make sure to click on it and set it to be advertised for rent so that you can find a tenant. Alright, so I've got 2 restaurants here. So you're still working on that apartment, that's fine. So the apartments and the retail and restaurants and stuff work a little bit differently. The apartments, all I do is I furnish the apartment and then people show up. Yes, okay, yes. All you do is furnish it, people eventually show up and start renting it. With the restaurants and retail, you actually pick who you want to rent that space. Alright, so I'm going to pause it for a moment here while we talk about this, and then we'll talk about what this little yellow sign that pops up here means. So to begin, you click on any space that you want that's empty that you want to start renting out, and it shows you what kind of shops you can rent out to and how many are available. So right now, food court restaurants, we have 3 potential tenants. Cafes, this building does not meet requirements, so it's got a big red X, and you can see in the description that the red X says we need at least 1 star of prestige. So we need to make this place a little bit fancier before a cafe will move in. And the third example down here, we have donut shops. We have 0 potential tenants. What we could do is we could spend some money by clicking on this button. We can spend some money and run an ad to try and lure in some tenants. Right now, I don't need to do that. I need to save my money as much as possible because we don't have a lot of it. I've already blown through almost $2,000 of the $5,000 I had. So we're going to go with what people who are interested right now. So food court restaurants. Oak Park Fast Rolls, New Orleans Hoagie Joint, FF Hoagie Joint. Oak Park Fast Rolls pays rent $110. That's the most amount of rent anybody's going to pay me. I hate to say that money is the bottom line and the be all and end all, but right now I need money. So they're going to be the first people to move in, are the people who pay the most rent, and they're going to get the primo spot on the ground floor. Let's see here. Food court restaurants. New Orleans Hoagie Joint. So we'll move the New Orleans Hoagie Joint in up there, and we'll get these guys going. Now, while those guys are getting ready to build some units over here, and just a thought, I just realized that I don't have an elevator to take people down. This will be a lot more effective if I have an elevator to get all the way down here. Better than using the stairs to go a long way. Okay, so now these guys are going to start working on these units here. I think behind here, somebody is hiding back there. One of my construction workers, I think, is hiding back there. But we'll get some places for you people to eat, because you people seem to want food. While that's getting organized, up here, my first studio apartment has a problem. So these little yellow icons, when they pop up, mean you've got a problem of some kind. So if you can't see the icon very well, I'll zoom in on it. But it's a little drop of water with a red cross there. So there's no water there in that apartment. That's going to be a problem. People who live in apartments generally like water. They like to wash their hands. They like to take a bath. Not having water is going to be a problem. So we need infrastructure in our building. We need water pipes. So we're going to have to click on the utilities button here, and here are the various types of utilities we have in our building: electricity, phone, cable TV, water, and gas. So the first thing we need is water. So if you see here, we've got a water pipe that runs into our building through the big major pipe that enters our building. All of our utilities come through this one major super pipe. And it runs up here to our water meter, and that's all it does. It doesn't get to the upper floors yet. In order to get it to the upper floors, we can't use just water pipes to get there. What we need is plumbing closets. Plumbing closets allow us to go up and down, and then the water pipes just traverse each floor. So that's why I actually included these little extra spaces here next to the elevator shaft, is to leave some room for some plumbing closets. So now we'll build 3 plumbing closets. Now we've got water up on the floor where our tenant is going to be, where our apartment is. Now we can lay some water pipes across the floor. So we go across here and into the unit, and boom, unpause it, and any second now you'll see that the water symbol disappeared, replaced with, of course, now the electricity symbol. We don't have any electricity on this floor, and we've got a tenant moving in already, so we better do something about this. Exactly the same idea as the water closet is the wiring closets. So again, the wires don't go up and down, the wires just simply go laterally across each floor. In order to get electricity up to the top floor, we need some wiring closets. So that's why I left these little spaces here. That comes from having played the game a little bit. I found that leaving some space ahead of time for these closets is a lot easier than trying to find a little bit of space for them later, or perhaps even bulldoze a unit just to make space for a utility closet. And the easiest way to do it is to make sure that they're all aligned. You could have them all over the place, but then you've got to build a run of wires laterally to get to the next wiring closet. Very frustrating. I found some buildings were like that already in the scenarios when I started. Very frustrating. So ideally, it's a lot cheaper and easier if you just line up all your utility closets. So now I've got my utility closet lined up here. Now all I have to do is just run a wire one segment over into the start of the apartment, excuse me. And I'm actually going to do this in the other direction too. I'm going to run some electricity out the other way, some water out the other way, because I'm going to also allocate a unit over there. Now when I unpause the game, you'll see the symbol's gone. Now I have a happy tenant. They may be living in a slum, but at least they have water and electricity. Over here, we'll build another studio apartment on this side. And again, all I can do is build a basic studio apartment. So my population is slowly starting to go up over time. Where did my construction workers go? Oh, that's right. They're building the 2 restaurants here. You can just see his hair right there. Oh, restaurant complete. Of course, needs infrastructure. I'm a very bad landlord. Unless somebody actually asks for electricity, I don't provide any. Not very useful. And the funny thing is that I knew when I built this what it needed. If you click on any unit, you can see exactly what they need. The eye right up here near the top will tell you what they need. Needs an electrical line, likes high traffic areas. These are the things that are going to make this unit successful. Alright. So we've got our first renter here. It's getting late. It's already almost midnight. And midnight is when we get our rent. Any chance anybody's going to move into this unit? Oh, somebody moved into this unit. We'll get some rent for that unit today too. Fantastic. Alright, and there it is. It's midnight. We get our daily budget summary. We have 0 revenue today, but we have total expenses $4,400. So the revenue comes in at midnight every night. The rent comes in at midnight every night. it only comes in for the units that have been rented for the full day. So if a unit was not rented at the start of that day, you don't get any revenue that day. That's why I've got 0 revenue coming in. But we'll fix that. Now tonight we'll get at least 4 units worth of revenue. The 2 food units, the 2 apartments will also get rented. That being said, of course, how much rent am I getting for each one? $150. $150, that's $300. Here's 110, so 300, that's 410, plus another 95, that's $505. So $505 in revenue coming into this place. How much does it cost me to run this building? Because I've already got utilities, I've got water, I've got electricity, I've got maintenance and construction and trash bins. I've got all sorts of stuff going on. So this is what ADA down here is good for. I don't even remember what ADA stands for, but ADA is basically, it's your report section. So you can do all sorts of different reports down here. Tenant overview, we have 2 restaurants, 2 apartments, and it tells you the total revenue. Budget overview. So daily rent revenues today is going to be, as I said, $505. Our daily expenses are already up to $980 with the various units. And if you want to see what the expenses, budget details, expenses, infrastructure, $420, utilities, $560. So basically all that, all this infrastructure here, building managers, and trash and whatnot, and elevators, that all costs a certain amount to operate. And then the utilities also cost a certain amount every day. So we have to start bringing in more revenue. We've got our first couple of units going up, and we're going to start bringing in more revenue as well. We're going to start getting more units. So I think what we'll do is we'll start expanding this building a little further upwards, add another floor on the top, and add an elevator to get there. Of course, we'll also need utilities, electricity, and water. Alright. Now we can build a few more apartments here that we can rent out. We'll build another one right here. Perfect. Still going to be very basic. We still have not even gotten 1 star yet. I'll return to that in 1 second. So basic studio apartment. So yeah, so our 1 star prestige level, or 0 star prestige level. We need 1 star prestige level to get even the most basic, get anything more than a basic apartment. So your prestige level is determined from a whole sorts of things. Population, artwork, special contracts, move-outs, and evictions decrease your prestige. So you want to avoid moving people out or evicting them as much as possible. You'd rather try and build a unit once and have it stay where it is. So we need 20 population to get our first star. So we got to keep moving people into these various apartments here in hopes of getting a star. Also, our restaurants will help us earn stars. Nobody wants to come and work in my restaurants yet? Maybe 9 o'clock they open? I don't know what time they open. Oh, there it is. 10 o'clock this joint opens. This joint also opens at 10 o'clock. Oh, and now, of course, we've built more units, but we need some services for them, or the tenants are going to move out. So there we go. We'll build some hydro wires, some water lines. Alright, somebody's already living there. Perfect. We're starting to get some revenue coming into this building. Hopefully we won't go bankrupt too soon. We've pretty much used up all of our money here, so we're probably going to have to take out a bank loan to continue growing our building and actually get some positive revenues, because even at this point with 4 units rented, 150, 300, that's only $600. Even with these guys each making about $100, it's still about $800. Our expenses are already over about $1,000. So we definitely need to build some more units, or we can't even turn a profit. Here come the employees for the restaurants. And don't they look excited to be there? Doesn't he look happy? Doesn't she look happy? Very excited to be there. Alright, this guy, where are you going? Life is good. Doesn't say where he's going. He is going to get something to eat. Time for a quick bite. Alright. Excellent. Alright, we got room to build another studio apartment, but I probably don't... Actually, no, I'm not sure if I have enough money for this. How much does it cost? Oh, $150. No, pays rent $150. Build cost $100. So it only cost me $100 to build an apartment. So there we go. We built the apartment. However, as always, we're going to need some utilities, or the tenant is going to move out. So they'll move in. They won't know that there's no utilities until after they've moved in. And then they'll move out and they'll leave a big mess behind. So when people move out, it's not very It's not a very good thing for your building in a number of ways. Obviously, you're losing some revenue, but even more importantly, when they move out, they destroy the unit when they move out. If somebody is forced to move out because they're unhappy, they completely destroy the unit, and it has to be completely rebuilt before you can rent it again. Your construction workers have to do some work clearing it out, and then you have to rebuild the unit. So all the money you spent decorating, outfitting the unit is lost. So you want to avoid having people move out as much as possible. Alright, come on people. What are you doing over here? That looked inappropriate. Alright, people are slowly building stuff here. Let's check ADA and see what our revenues are going to be today. So our budget overview. Daily rent revenue is $505. Still not enough to cover our expenses. So I'm thinking that we're going to need to borrow some money to help grow this building to the point where we're actually going to make some money. I guess the other thing we can do, and I could probably explain this now, is we can start getting some contracts. So first I'm just going to outfit this next studio apartment. Not that I'm in a rush because I've got 2 apartments that still haven't been moved into yet. But let's have it ready to go for when somebody wants to move in. So one of the best ways early in the game to make a little bit of extra money without having to borrow money from the bank is contracts. So city contracts are kind of like side missions essentially. They're little extra things to get you a little bit of extra money for completing certain tasks. So you can have up to 2 contracts on the go at a time. Right now I only have 2 contracts to choose from, so I could sign them both, but you can only have 2 on the go at a time, and they are not taken away until they're completed. So be a little bit careful about which ones you're going to complete. So affordable housing, the city would like you to make sure that the neighborhood retains affordable housing options, build some less expensive studio and 1-bedroom apartments. So they want a number of studio and 1-bedroom apartments. It doesn't tell you how many until you actually click the contract, how many you actually need to build, but you get an idea of what you're going to need to do by reading the description here. The nice thing is it pays a little bit of money up front to help with the construction costs, and then you get a bunch of money at the back end on completion. You get a bunch of money, which helps your finances in the beginning, because especially certain buildings can be pretty low on funds in the beginning. It's hard to get that first amount of money coming in. So affordable housing, I'll definitely sign that one because we're building apartment units already, so we'll get some revenue from that. The City's Department of Planning and Development wants to encourage small landlords to improve their buildings. Reach daily rent revenues of $1,000 to be awarded a neighborhood development grant. So pays $500 on completion and grants 10 buzz. Sounds pretty easy. I'm trying to get $1,000 worth of daily revenue already, just to meet my expenses, so why not? Alright, and our building is slowly growing. I think I might try and see if I can squeeze in one more restaurant here. And I put this on the 2nd floor. I'm hoping for a donut shop. No donut shops yet, so it didn't cost me anything to put that there, so I'll keep checking back every night at midnight the list of tenants seeking space updates. It'll update sooner if you place an ad, then there'll be a countdown timer until the ad is done running, and you'll see how much money you've made. Alright, next thing I'd like to do is I just want to build a stairwell right here underneath this one restaurant so that people coming in and just going to the restaurants on the 2nd floor can get there pretty easily without having to necessarily take the elevator. If I could, I would build an escalator, but unfortunately we don't have escalators in this game. That being said, I have seen on the forums that people are quite interested in it, and the developers are a little bit interested in it as well, so you never know. There may be escalators in a future update, but right now there are none. Alright, of course, I'm an idiot. I build all these units, but I don't bother servicing them. And people are going to move out pretty quickly when they get angry with me. So, let's go ahead and let's run some utilities to these various units here. Alright, so there's some electricity. That unit got rented out, so now I only have 2 units that aren't being rented right now. My population is slowly going up. It's 11 now. I need 20. Alright, how are we doing here? So now we can rent out, or we can finish another studio apartment here. And maybe another studio apartment here. Basic studio apartments. Nothing terribly exciting. I'm just a slumlord apparently. And now one thing that I've determined that I can do as well, and I may want to do it now, these units are not renting particularly quickly, I can drop the rent. So adjust the rent you can adjust the rent globally or on individual units. So I'm just going to adjust the rent on just this individual unit here and this individual unit here. And then, of course, once they've moved in, then we'll jack the rent back up. But let's see if we can attract some tenants by cutting the rent in half to begin with. If you want to, you can click on your cash and you can cash flow to bring up the budget screen, and you can actually fine-tune rent across all of your buildings, all of the various units in your buildings. You can do them a little bit more finely, just 10% increments instead of 25% increments if you do them across the whole building. Alright, I did not want to actually adjust anything, that was just a demonstration. So fast forward. Hello people, anybody want to move into this building? Everyone's going to sleep. Need some utilities run down there. Fine, we'll keep running utilities. And while we're waiting for people to move in, we might as well keep on expanding the floors. And what we'll do is we'll again drop the rent, hope that some people will move in. Maybe not at 10 o'clock at night, but at some point hopefully people will move in. And I might even make this building just a little bit wider. I make my slum a little wider here. Who said slum? I mean luxury living accommodations. 4, 5, 6. Normally I would be too concerned about the size of things, but just because I don't have a whole lot of extra revenues right now, I'm trying to make sure I don't spend any more money than I have to. Guess no one's going to move in the middle of the night, huh? Okay, fine. Surprised these people all sleep with the light on. That's one thing they probably could have done, is they could have made the apartments go dark at night. Congratulations, you completed the contract proof of concept. The reward of $500 has been wired to your account. If you feel it up to it, more lucrative contracts may be available under the contracts menu. So here's our revenue. Total revenue, total expenses. This includes one-time expenses as well as your monthly or your daily rent and expenses. So it's a little bit challenging sometimes to see where your money's going. You need to see the more detailed budget screen to see where it's going. Because it looks like we had a lot of revenue yesterday. Most of that revenue was our loan that we took out. We received money for the loan. There's our one-time revenue, $5,000 for the loan and $500 for the contract that we started. So our daily revenues are up to, so if you really want to see it, here's our daily revenues, $1,100 daily revenue, $1,300 daily expenses. So we're about $200 shy. And look, we even get fireworks when we complete a contract. So we're about $200 shy on revenues meeting expenses here. So we need a couple more people moving into our building, and then we'll be doing quite well. And the other thing we can do here in the middle of the night, hey, look, a donut shop. I love a donut shop. Gail's Donuts wants to move in and pay $90 a day. Needs an electrical line, needs a water pipe hookup, and likes high traffic areas. Alright, so let's make sure this time, let's not forget about Gail. Let's give you some electricity. Let's give you some water. And now we're going to have a donut shop. And of course, while I have the utilities menu open, I'm just going to expand the utilities over here to where we're going to build some more apartments. Hopefully we'll get some people to rent these today, because frankly we need the revenue. And without a whole lot of people living in our building, we're not going to get a whole lot of revenue to our restaurants and stores, and they're just going to be competing with each other for a very limited amount of business. Especially when you choose stores of the same type. That's what I found, is that when you choose stores of the same type, so these are both fast food stores, they're both going to be competing with each other. Why? Oh, why? Now, why does this unit not have electricity? These people are not going to be happy. They don't have electricity because we don't have enough electrical connections in our building. So, let's expand our basement floor a little bit to make some room for some more electrical connections. So each of these electrical connections down in the bottom, water meter, etc., can only connect so many units. So click on them to see a total utility report. So this produces 10 electricities. Our total production in the building is 10, but we have a demand of 11. So we need to build another wiring closet. I believe I can do this without that floor being finished. So we go into the utilities menu. We've got our wires, we've got our wiring closets. Here we have our electrical transformers. So we need a larger transformer. And yes, I don't need to wait for the floor to actually be done to build the larger transformer. So we just simply, boom, click. Now we have 2 electrical transformers. Each one can support 10 units. So voila, now that icon is gone. So we need to constantly be upscaling our utilities as our building grows here. Alright, are you almost done there? Now he's coming down to fix up this floor. You should be almost done. There you go. Done, thank you. Alright, so let's build a few more studio apartments, even though we're having trouble renting out the ones we got. Hopefully they're going to go get rented sooner or later, because I need that population. I need a star. I cannot build any artwork, which is a shortcut to getting a bonus star there. So we just got to keep on waiting for people to move in. Hopefully the fact that these units are cheap will help these people move in sooner rather than later. I'm hoping that most of these units will get filled up today, throughout the day. Alright, there's one that's rented out. An old lady moved in. Wanda moved in. Unfortunately, Wanda, now that you live here, I'm going to raise your rent. So we're doing the old bait and switch. Luring people into our slum with very low rent. And then there's the water. So again, our water meter only can support 10 connections right off the bat. We're going to need to add another water meter because our building is growing and we have 11 units that are demanding a water supply now. So we're constantly scaling up our utilities. I didn't have a lot of money to build extra large utility connections at this point. So we'll go with the smaller ones. As the building gets a little bigger, I'll bulldoze the smaller ones and replace them with bigger, more efficient connections. But right now, just trying to get people to move in. Let's lower the rent again on this unit here. Well, we're not going to have 0 rent. That's a little bit extreme. I don't think anyone will move in for 0 rent because they'd say, what's the catch? Alright, come on people, move in. Everyone move in, everyone be happy. I don't want to raise expenses anymore. I don't want to add another floor to my building until I've rented out the remainder of these units. So now we're just going to go into fast forward mode here and see what happens. Are you a new renter, or were you a previous renter? Oh, you're a new renter. Fantastic. By the way, your rent just went up. I hope you're happy. I'm a terrible landlord, apparently. Alright, then time is ticking. This unit just get rented? Boom, this unit just got rented. Rent back up, thank you. Because frankly, I need full rent. You need to pay for the utilities costs. Good old bait and switch. I get you in the door, and then I raise your rent. I've got a fair bit of money here. Oh, another unit rented. Back up to full. Now that these units are mostly getting rented, I think we're going to add another floor on here. Right from one end to the other. We'll make it nice and large. Of course, we'll need an elevator to get there. And we'll need utility closets on the floors as well. And we might as well connect at least very close by with utilities. So the first couple units I build, at least on this floor, will have some utilities. And boom. Construction workers, do your thing. Now I think all these units are back to costing me 100. Except for this one and this one, the two that haven't rented yet. Daily cash flow. Total revenue, $1,600. Not too bad. Let's have a look here at Ada and see our budget overview. So daily rent is now up to $1,600, but because I kept building all those utility closets, my daily expenses are up to $1,900. So I need higher revenues still. Need to get higher revenues. We're getting there though. We've got a number of units. We've got quite a bit of room now on both our water and our electricity. So we got quite a bit of slack in those utilities, so we can definitely build a few more units before we have to consider upgrading our utility closets again, because these each cost us $250 a day. This is what's costing me, is all the utility hookups. I need more people paying for utilities here. Of course, it's the middle of the night, so nobody's going to probably move in right now, but we'll just start outfitting these units, and hopefully someone will move in eventually. Let's see here. Another studio apartment, another studio apartment. Oh. Another studio apartment, another studio apartment. And once again, we're going to do the old bait and switch. We're going to drop the rent on the empty units to 50% until somebody moves in. We'll jack them back up again. Because apparently I'm a really cruel slumlord. Really lousy apartments, but boy, you guys are going to pay for them. Alright, need some utilities to hook up to these newer apartments. I don't think I'll even outfit that last apartment until some more of these units rent, because it's costing me money to have all these things hooked up to the utilities. And again, we're starting to run out of utilities here. We might do better to make the building a little wider so we don't need an elevator, because each unit of the elevator costs $50 per day. So if we make the building a little wider, who cares? Gotta try and get the population up to 20 so I can build some stores for some variety, some retail stores. These ones, did I drop the rent on them? Not yet. Drop the rent. Drop the rent. Alright. And now hopefully we'll get some new tenants in here. So we're going to fast forward a little bit, try to get some revenue, try to get a positive cash flow going on here, because between everything I'm still not getting a positive cash flow between my loan payments and utility costs. Still not making money yet. Close. Oh, this unit rented out. Good. You're back to paying 100%. If I really wanted to be mean, I could raise the rent across the board by an extra 10% just to help bring up the revenues, and I may have to do that just to sort of keep the building growing. Oh, I think this unit rented. Perfect. Now the nice thing is that as these units rent, I am not incurring any more expenses for them. The expenses are already figured in. So we have a few more building units left to rent. There's a problem in one of your elevator shafts. It's going to mean that people traveling from the affected floor will experience a much longer wait time than usual. No one likes waiting, and this will undoubtedly make them unhappy. If you have a building maintenance office, they'll send someone to fix it as soon as they can. If you don't have one, I would think about building one right away. So this building already came with a maintenance office. That's this office right next to the construction office here. Maintenance office. And there's two mechanics. One guy already went up here, or one gal I should say. Diane went up here already to work on that elevator, so she automatically gets dispatched. The key is that you have to have the office already built. Alright, thank you YouTube, and I think we'll pause it there and we'll pick it up next time. And I hope you enjoyed watching this, and as always, subscribe to the channel.